please, sir, Donald, stop it. Stop doing interviews. That would be my advice if I worked, God forbid, for Donald Trump. I would say, hey, maybe the best thing you could do in the lead up in these final days before this election is not go on camera as much as possible, because every time you do, it does not go well. You may have seen clips from this, or one particular clip that went viral from this Kellyanne Conway interview with Donald Trump. But that was the one thing people were talking about. It's notable. It's Trump saying that the vice presidential debate tonight is going to be rigged against JD Vance. But because of that, we looked into the full interview on Fox Nation, and it's something else, as we'll go through. Starting with the second clip that I'm going to show you is Trump once again just being fundamentally incapable of answering a question. And it's tough to watch and listen to. But first, it's even more insane to listen to when first you see how Kellyanne Conway described this interview. So after the interview, you'll see it's wrapped up and she has a little post-interview analysis. This is on her show, Here's the Deal with Kellyanne. And she sane washes this like you couldn't believe. So watch that, and then I'll show you a clip that proves how absurd what she said is.
That was my first sit-down interview with my former boss, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. We conducted the interview at the site of our historic 2016 campaign headquarters in Trump Tower. President Trump covered a wide range of issues for nearly an hour. He spoke specifically and with granular detail.
He spoke specifically and with granular detail. That's the phrase I want you to keep in your mind.
On a range of policy contrasts with his political opponent.
On a range of policy contrasts with his political opponents. Granular detail, specificity, succinct, to the point, addressing the questions. That's what she wants you to believe that you watched in the interview. Okay, well, let's see for ourselves. If you enjoy this show, please do click that subscribe button. Easy, free, simple, but makes all the difference. Back to the video. Starting with this.
Because I still believe that you do it from the perspective of a businessman, not as a politician. And Washington does not like negotiation. They like to have commissions. They like to kick the can down the road. They like divided government. They talk about legislation, regulation, appropriation. But you always talk about negotiation, whether you've said it with Ukraine, Israel. Walk us through that. What can you actually do in those two areas? Because peace...
She says, and I'm going to play the question for you again, because you're going to think that he got asked a different question, as so often happens when his brain's not working properly. She says, on Israel and on Russia, I think was the way she described it. But the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza, how does your negotiating skills come into play here, hypothetically? What will you do to negotiate us out of those situations? And see if he answers the question.
Kick the can down the road. They like divided government. They talk about legislation, regulation, appropriation. But you always talk about negotiation, whether you've said it with Ukraine, Israel. Walk us through that. What can you actually do in those two areas? Because peace through strength is the antidote to war through weakness.
Look, some people in Washington like negotiation. My group liked negotiation. We had great negotiators. We had people that...
By the way, and then I'm sorry, I'll let you hear the whole interview or the whole answer uninterrupted so that you can get a feel for it. But notice he's kind of bothered with Kellyanne Conway throughout this whole interview.
Walk us through that. What can you actually do in those two areas? Because peace through strength is the antidote to war through weakness.
Look, some people in Washington like negotiation. My group liked negotiation. We had great negotiators. We had people that did a good job. But they reported to me, and I say, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, you got to say no. And when you say no enough, you start making much better deals. But we didn't pay anything. We didn't go with money. We told them up front, there can't be money involved. There is no money involved. I mean, we had 4 hostages in North Korea. It doesn't get tougher than North Korea because some people say there's nobody to talk to. Well, there was in my case because I got along with Kim Jong-un. But I got him out, and Otto, unfortunately, was badly beaten, and it was terrible. We got him out alive, but he was beat up. But don't forget, he was taken during the Obama regime. And they should have gotten him right away and he would have been fine, but they didn't.
How would you negotiate in quote unquote those two areas, the war and devastation in Gaza and Ukraine? Keep applying his answer to that question. See if you're getting anything.
And they should be blamed for what happened to him. He was in there a long time before I got there. But I got him out, and I got 3 others out with him. And you got to set down a line. I just hate to see it. Every time, I always go, how much did we pay? And we pay so many billions. We pay billions and billions of dollars. It's never going to stop. They're going to nab anybody they can. The money we pay is just crazy. And then we always have a lousy deal, too. We get back like 3, but we left the engineer there, okay? The engineer was left in Russia. Why wouldn't you get him in? And it's a big deal that he was. But why wouldn't you get him into the initial negotiation? How do you leave him back? These are terrible dealers. I don't know what their problem is. It's so basic. It's not like you can teach this stuff. You have to have it instinctively. But these are terrible people, the way they're doing it. And then you have the border. The border is the worst. We have the worst border in the history of the world. Why would they open it? And now, almost 4 years later, she starts talking about the border.
What would you do in those two areas to negotiate peace?
Because she's getting decimated. She will never do anything on the border. She's grossly incompetent. I mean, I say this stuff. I don't want to say that. She's a grossly incompetent person. I just saw her make a statement from her fundraiser, whatever she is in San Francisco. A city she totally destroyed, by the way. Used to be the best city in the United States. Now you can't even live there. She destroyed it, too.
Well, this is how you won in 2016, if I may, sir, because you appealed to...
And then she goes on to the next question. Jaden? Earth to Jaden? Is there anything of substance there? Did you gain any insight?
Not really.
I think what happened, partially he's struggling to think through these interviews, but previously he was asked about prisoner exchanges, and so I guess his brain was just still on that, even though he was asked about Ukraine and Gaza, and he just keeps talking about prisoner exchanges, that he feels like he did better, even though he'll act like, and he's asserted before, the idea that while he was president, he never had to give anything to get American prisoners held unjustly abroad back into the United States, even though he did have to do trades. And he's made claims about this person would have never had to be negotiated for, that person, they would have just given them to me. And it's never substantiated. But so he's making an incorrect point there about hostage negotiations, prisoner exchanges. But then he has said absolutely nothing that answers the question about Ukraine and Gaza. He's still caught up on the big historic deal that Biden negotiated, I guess, with Russia and getting American citizens back, and multiple countries were involved in it, but not at all able to critically think his way into an answer about the actual question. Stunning stuff. Stunning stuff. The next part that we'll look at, let me pull this up, is Trump saying that he did so well in the pandemic. And listen to one of the claims he makes about the pandemic.
The forgotten man, forgotten woman, forgotten child. Now they feel invisible because of many things you say.
And this is the clip we were just watching. That's not what we need.
Up and the stock market was higher than it was before. You know, nobody talks about that. What I did with the gowns and the masks and the ventilators and all of it.
I was there every single day.
And Regeneron, the therapeutics.
The cupboards were bare. There were no supplies.
The cupboards, as the expression goes. You remember the expression?
Yes.
Because nobody, I don't even blame the past presidents, because
no, it's a once-in-a-century pandemic.
Nobody thought we were going to have a pandemic. But despite that, and we did a great job, never got credit for that. You know,
no one thought there was going to be a pandemic. Associated Press reports public health and national security experts shake their heads when President Donald Trump says the coronavirus came out of nowhere and blindsided the world. They've been warning about the next pandemic for years and criticized the Trump administration's decision in 2018 to dismantle a National Security Council directorate at the White House charged with preparing for when, not if, another pandemic would hit the nation. They had specifically set up an initiative to prepare for a pandemic, expecting it would happen eventually. Trump decided to get rid of that and then says no one expected a pandemic could happen. So that's why it's okay that he mismanaged it. Something else. And then the next moment, he is asked again a specific question and cannot give an answer.
Cities, and if we're a liberal, Democrat-run nation, we're dead.
You're making a case against Kamala. I don't think we have to talk about her race, her gender, her age. I don't think we have to call her names. We have to call out her incompetence. Mr. President, there's roughly about 5% undecided voters that remained. The second question for them is vote for Trump or Harris. The first question is whether to bother at all. Even a record turnout in 2020, we had 80 million people, including folks who would have leaned toward you, not vote. What's your message to them? Can they vote early? Can they vote by mail? And what's your closing message to them? They say they're not character, abortion, or border voters. If they are, they're already set. These undecided voters are mostly economic voters. First, when should they vote? Where should they vote? And then why should they vote for you?
So
With all my criticisms of Kellyanne Conway, she's asking very specific questions, nicely phrased, okay? When should they vote? How should they vote? What's your closing message to them, particularly on the economy? Let's see. What are the answers to those questions?
let me just say the first thing, because people say, "Oh, don't bring it up." I want to bring it up. You know it. I've done an unbelievable job on the abortion question. It's been going on for 52 years, the Roe v. Wade. I got it brought into the states, and the people are voting, and there's going to be peace finally. And they're voting it tends to be on the liberal side, actually, if you look at Ohio and Kansas and other places. But I've done something that Republicans and Democrats and liberals and conservatives and all legal scholars wanted done. And now it's being done by the states, and they're voting, and they're going to vote. I mean, and that's the way it is. And they're voting very much in favor of the liberal side. And it'll be done properly, because it should have never been in the federal government, never will be in the federal government.
You get the point. We've heard this whole completely inaccurate rant before, but can anyone answer what's going on with Trump for me? What? Remember how this was introduced. It would be interesting, actually, if we could, to watch this again. Okay, now that we've watched moments from this interview, let's rewatch at the very end.
This hurricane, we're going to let you go, but I'm very grateful for your time. I know our audience benefits tremendously from everything you've had to say on a range of issues today. Thank you very much, Mr.
Okay,
President.
thank you very much. Thank you.
That was my first sit-down interview with my former boss, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. We conducted the interview at the site of our historic 2016 campaign headquarters in Trump Tower. President Trump covered a wide range of issues for nearly an hour. He spoke specifically and with granular detail on a range of policy contrasts with his political opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris. This included Israel and Iran, the southern border, and the economy.
Just because you asked about those things, and just because he said a lot of words, doesn't mean that he was able to effectively articulate his position on those things. When you get asked about wars and how you're going to brilliantly negotiate us out of them, but you couldn't give that advice to Biden and have him do it because you want to wait until you're president. But your answer is just you going in circles about how you could have done better prisoner exchanges unrelated to those two wars. Or you get asked about your closing message and you just start saying a bunch of talking points about abortion when she specifically said, we're not talking about people who are super concerned with that particular topic. How about the other people who are concerned with a different topic? You can't then credit him for discussing a wide range of policy subjects and demonstrating for our viewers the policy contrast between him and his political opponent. But that's what Fox News is tasked with doing, or in this case, Fox Nation, Kellyanne Conway, making Trump seem more rational than he is. Because when you actually subject yourself, I dare you. This is a paid subscription, Fox Nation, but with any of the public, non-paywalled interviews Trump does, go watch the whole thing. Go watch a whole Trump rally. See for yourself. just how sane or not Trump is and how tough it is to listen to him, especially as of recently. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Support the show by clicking that join button below. We have a great time on the bonus show. You can join us there with that join button. And of course, we do have election themed merch you can get your hands on at lukebeasleymerch.com.